Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Wintergreen.
Today we're going to talk about a question that you brought up in one of our conversations, which is if women in pregnancy are afraid of the coming birth, will that fear help their birth or hinder it or be a neutral factor? And so we'd like to discuss this. And I first really want to ask what your experience as a doula is with this concept of fear in childbirth. And we know that there's a message that's given often to women is just trust birth, don't be afraid of it. That's followed up with an assumption that if you are afraid of birth, that you will hinder it. So what's your experience?
It depends on what you do with your fear. I think fear is a natural part of childbirth and indeed of any great essay in life, especially something that we've never done before and that we have no idea how to do or where it's going to go or how it's going to turn out. Birth is always and ever a mystery. But what you do with that fear, I have found, makes all the difference. If that fear translates into just the physiological, natural reaction of holding yourself in, closing yourself up, turning yourself off to the birth energy, greeting each contraction with, oh no, not another one. Oh no, no. That can be counterproductive in labor. Whereas a healthy fear is, I want to be ready for this. I want to get ready and know what I'm doing and do everything that I can to equip myself in this ordeal or marathon or whatever it's going to be. So I'm going to prepare myself. And because of my fear, I'm going to prepare myself really well. And that makes a huge difference. Women who have skills, women who do prepare themselves for birth have a much easier time. And that's my experience.
One of the things that's been great about our friendship, which is now many years old, is that we sort of come to birth from different philosophical viewpoints. And yet we share something very much in common, which is what we hope other people will join us, which is that skills matter and that they benefit and enrich birth. So let me explain a little bit about what families taught me when we created or developed the Birthing Better childbirth preparation skills in the early 1970s. I didn't have a particular philosophical viewpoint about whether fear hindered, helped, or was neutral in childbirth, probably because I gave birth first in 1970 and started to develop these skills around 1972. So it was still sort of active in my mind. What families talked about as we nitpicked through the gaps that women and men experienced both in subsequent births and as they were approaching their first birth was this issue of fear and how fearful people were and what did you do about it. So what families taught me was that fear in itself, even the natural reaction of pulling back and tensing up, didn't necessarily hinder the process that the baby went through in order to come out. In other words, you could have women absolutely just screaming through labor and standing on their tippy toes, and they could be reacting to labor that had contractions that came every 10 seconds. And within 3 hours from start to finish, they'd given birth. So we found that when we looked at fear itself, that even the ability of women to pull back, when you saw that pulling back, if the baby was relatively small compared to the inside space of the woman, that the baby could stimulate effective contractions. We also found out that women who expressed no anxiety or fear of birth, and there are certainly a percent of women who just feel very confident about birthing. Also, if they had structural tension inside, even though the baby might be relatively a small fit, a good fit, an easy fit, that if they had structural tension that they didn't know about, that structural tension hindered the birthing process, even though they didn't feel a particular anxiety about birth. From those two almost polar opposite experiences, families started to create skills that would help them prepare their body and to deal with the tensions in their body and to create space and ways to open the pregnant body so that they could open their birthing body. And what we found was that there were 4 types of tension. There was that conscious tension that we all see in birth, which is you just tense up and put shoulders up and pull back, and you don't like the sensations. Then there's the unconscious tension. So we often explain it as, you see somebody walking down the street and they're a bit like this or a bit like this. They don't know that they're doing that. And that's unconscious tension. And then there was structural tension, which we just mentioned is the soft tissue tense in the inside of a woman's body, or is the bony structure of her pelvis not as mobile as other women's? And the 4th was stretching tension. So you often saw that in second stage, if the soft tissue of the birth canal, it was tight, and this big object came down through it, you would see this incredible stretching, not necessarily open, but thinning out and tightening of the birth canal. And so as we developed skills to address those 4 things, and then skills to manage how we reacted to birth, then we found that we could still have fears and at the same time manage well. So let me ask you a question, because about 5 years ago when we met, our trust invited you to invite your clients to start to use our resource. You saw validity in those skills and have been getting your clients to self-learn them. So when you look back before that and now look back on the years that the families have become skilled, how do you see that impact their emotional response, such as fear, and also their ability to cope even though they have fears or anxieties?
I think in general, the more skilled people are, the more they're able to cope with their fear, the more that they're able to kind of override fear responses that could be impeding the progress of labor. I mean, you described a birth that I would call that a runaway train birth, where the train has left the station and it's just accelerating and accelerating. You could be hanging from a chandelier by your ankle and the baby would still be born. It doesn't matter because the baby is coming. And some births are like that. Some first births and lots of second births are like that, in my experience. The births before the pink kit, there was less that was known. It was more of an unknown because we didn't have those skills. Of course, I was looking for skills all the time and looking for tricks and looking for this and that would help women, because I wanted to empower them to have the best birth experience that they could have, that they would feel empowered by it, not by me doing something, but by them accomplishing something and feeling that they had birthed well, that their babies were here because they had climbed this huge mountain by themselves and they had done it. There was definitely more dissatisfaction with the end result before the pink kit because, quite frankly, there were more surgical births, many, many more surgical births. And here in where I practice, women do not want to have surgical births. And at least the women who are attracted to me as a doula wish to have a natural birth. And most of them don't even want to have an epidural or any kind of medical intervention if possible. They have some kind of dream that is within them that they can experience the whole spectrum of feelings and all of the pain and everything that is associated with birthing their baby. By themselves, they're just able to do it, and they want that accomplishment. They want to have that. They want to say to themselves, I did it. And so after having everyone use the birthing better skills, most people have births that they are very pleased with. Yes, sometimes the births are difficult, but there are very few, if not totally zero, surgical births now in my practice, which makes people very happy. And even when their own doctors later say, I thought you never would be able to do that. So skills make a huge difference. I've seen that over these past 5 years. I can't speak more highly of the birthing better skills. Of course, there are other skills resources, but I've never seen one that is as comprehensive and useful as the Birthing Better resource.
We'll explain right now that this used to be called Birthing Better with a Pink Kit method. And we've had people who would say, I had a pink kit birth, or I have a pink kit baby. And their friends would say to them, what's that? And they'd say it's about birthing better. So actually, we've changed this to birthing better, and people listening to it will notice that you eventually made that change. So it's been recent. We know that people still have an affection for this term, the pink kit. Catherine, thank you very much for that explanation. And we want to keep these conversations a bit short. And anybody who knows anything about childbirth knows that we can ramble on for hours. So we are going to meet again, and there'll be other conversations that you and I have about many topics about childbirth, because we are on a mission together as people who care about birth. And that is, we want to grow a skilled birthing population so that families just choose skills as one of the pathways that they take to prepare for their birth, and then to cope and manage, deal with, work with, handle the birth process as it unfolds. Thank you again for participating with me, and we'll see you again.
Thanks, Wintergreen.